Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're going to be doing a deep dive today all about car insurance.
Oh, fun.
Well, maybe not fun, but important, right? Especially if you're a younger driver.
Definitely important.
Yeah, so we found this great article. It's from My Insurance Advice UK. It's called Temporary versus Annual Coverage for Young Drivers. And
Catchy.
it is catchy, and it was published on November 27, 2024. So pretty recent and
Very relevant.
very relevant, and we know that this is a question we get a lot from our younger listeners.
Yeah, they're always asking, temporary versus annual coverage. Which one should I choose?
Exactly, and I remember when I was younger, this was such a confusing topic for me.
Yeah, it can be a tough one to figure out.
So we're going to break it all down today.
Sounds good.
So first up, let's talk temporary car insurance.
All right, temporary car insurance. This is all about, flexibility. Think about those times when you just need a car for a short period.
Yeah, like if you're borrowing a car from a friend or family member.
Exactly. Or if you're going on a road trip or just, need a car for a few days or even a few hours.
Wait, you can get car insurance for just a few hours?
Those policies can be as short as an hour.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yep. Or they can go all the way up to 28 days.
So it's kind of like a little insurance bubble just for that short period of time.
Exactly. And it's totally separate from the car owner's insurance.
Which is great because I know when I was younger, I was always so nervous to borrow my parents' car.
Right. You didn't want to mess up their insurance.
Exactly. So this is a great way to be covered without affecting their policy.
Absolutely. And it's usually really quick to set up. You can opt to do it online in minutes.
That's awesome. So if you're a spontaneous kind of person and decide you need a car last minute,
You're covered.
you're good to go.
But there's always a but.
There's always but let's talk about cost, because the article mentioned that temporary insurance can be pricey, especially for younger drivers.
Yeah, it can be quite a bit more expensive than an annual policy.
Okay. So how much more expensive are we talking?
Well, it'd be like 2 to 3 times higher. Yeah. So that's definitely something to keep in mind, especially if you're on a tight budget.
Okay. So convenience is great, but you really got to factor in that cost difference.
Exactly. And there are a couple of other things to think about, too, when it comes to temporary insurance, like the coverage might be a bit more limited.
Limited in what way?
Well, sometimes temporary policies don't cover things like fire, theft, vandalism.
Oh, right.
Yeah, those are usually included in a comprehensive annual policy. So if you're planning to drive a lot, that could be a concern.
I see. So it's kind of like choosing between a basic travel insurance plan for a weekend trip versus a more comprehensive one for like a month-long vacation.
Exactly. It all depends on your needs.
Right. And there's one more thing we got to talk about with temporary insurance, and that's the no claims bonus.
Ah, yes, the no claims bonus, or the NCB, as some people call it.
Yeah. So can you explain that for our listeners who might not be familiar with that term?
Sure. So basically, for every year you drive without making a claim, you get a discount on your insurance premium.
Well, that's cool.
It's like a reward for being a safe driver.
So it pays to be a good driver, literally.
Exactly. And those discounts can really add up over time, especially for young drivers who are just starting out.
So if you're thinking long-term, missing out on that no claims bonus with temporary insurance could actually end up costing you more down the line.
That's right. So temporary insurance, it's great for those short bursts of coverage, but it's important to be aware of the potential downsides.
Right. The cost difference, the limitations on coverage, and missing out on that no claims bonus.
Okay, so we've covered temporary insurance now. Let's switch gears and talk about annual car insurance.
Okay, annual car insurance, that's more like the traditional approach. You pay a premium up front and you're covered for a full year.
Exactly. No gaps, no worries.
That's reassuring. And it gives you that sense of, consistency, knowing that you're covered no matter what.
Exactly. It's the go-to choice for a lot of drivers, and for good reason.
And of course, with annual insurance, you get to build up that no claims bonus that we were just talking about.
Exactly. So that's a big plus. And you also typically get more comprehensive coverage with an annual policy.
Okay, so it sounds like annual insurance has a lot going for it. But what about the cost? Because I know a lot of young drivers might be worried about that initial upfront payment.
Yeah, that can be a bit daunting, especially when you're just starting out and have other expenses to worry about.
Right. So is there any way to make that initial payment more manageable?
A lot of insurers offer monthly payment plans.
Oh, that's good to know. So instead of paying one big lump sum,
You can spread it out over the year.
yeah, that makes it a lot easier to budget.
Definitely. And if you actually crunch the numbers, annual insurance often works out to be cheaper per day compared to relying on multiple temporary policies throughout the year.
Interesting. So thinking long-term can actually save you money.
Exactly. But of course, there is a potential downside to annual insurance, and that's flexibility.
Flexibility, how so?
Well, with an annual policy, you're locked in for a full year. So If your circumstances change.
Like if you move closer to work and don't need to drive as much.
Right. Or if you decide to sell your car, you're still committed to that insurance policy for the remainder of the year.
So it's a trade-off. You get the stability and comprehensive coverage, but you lose a bit of flexibility.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to really think about your individual needs and circumstances before making a decision.
Okay, so we've got a good understanding of the basics of both temporary and annual car insurance. We've talked about the pros and cons, the costs, the coverage. But now, how do we actually decide which option is right for our listeners?
Well, that's what we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so it's decision time, right? We've looked at both options, temporary and annual, and now it's like, okay, which one do I actually choose?
Right, like which one's the right fit for me?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do we even begin to figure that out?
Well, I think the first question you got to ask yourself is, how often are you actually going to be driving?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, are you someone who's behind the wheel every single day?
Or just every once in a while?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're only going to be driving occasionally, maybe just on weekends or borrowing a car here and there,
yeah,
then temporary insurance might make the most sense.
Makes sense to me, because why pay for a whole year if you're not going to use it, right?
Exactly. But then on the flip side, if you're a daily driver,
Yeah, if you're using your car for work or school.
right, or
Yeah.
just, running errands and going out and about.
Yeah, living life.
Exactly. Then that's when annual insurance starts to look a lot more appealing.
Okay, so driving frequency, it's a big one.
Huge.
But let's be real here. Another big factor is
Budget,
budget. Yeah,
especially for young drivers. I mean,
car insurance can be expensive.
it can be a big chunk of change.
It really can. So what do you do if you know that upfront cost for annual insurance feels a bit overwhelming?
Well, that's when those monthly payment plans can be a lifesaver.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier.
Instead of having to fork over a huge amount all at once,
Yeah.
you can break it down into smaller, more manageable payments.
Right. Like, it's like subscribing to a streaming service instead of paying for the whole year up front.
Exactly. You pay a smaller fee each month.
Yeah, and it just makes it a lot easier to fit into your budget.
Absolutely. So don't let that initial cost scare you away from annual insurance if it seems like the better option for your driving habits.
Okay, so we've talked about driving frequency. We've talked about budget. What's the next thing we need to consider?
Coverage.
Coverage. Okay.
How much peace of mind do you want when you're out there on the road?
Right. Like some people are okay with just the basic minimum coverage.
Yeah, just the bare minimum required by law.
Yeah. But others want that, that comprehensive package that covers all kinds of scenarios.
Right. They want to be prepared for anything.
So what are some of the things that comprehensive coverage would typically include?
Well, it would cover damage to your own car, of course.
Okay.
Things like if you get into an accident or, someone hits your parked car.
Right.
It would also cover theft, fire vandalism, even things like, if a John shopping cart runs into your car in a parking lot.
Wait, really? Shopping carts are covered?
Yep. Comprehensive insurance can be pretty amazing.
It's like having a superhero sidekick for your car.
Exactly. Always there to protect you.
But of course, that extra protection comes at a price, right?
It does. Comprehensive coverage usually costs more than just basic coverage.
So it's all about finding that balance between, your budget and how much peace of mind you want.
Exactly. You got to weigh the pros and cons.
Okay, so far so good. We've talked about driving, frequency, budget, and coverage. Those seem like the big three.
Definitely the key factors to consider.
But the article also had some really interesting tips specifically for young drivers who are trying to save money on car insurance.
Oh, yeah. There were some great nuggets in there.
Yeah, like one that really caught my eye was black box insurance. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yeah. Black box insurance. That's pretty cool.
So for those who haven't heard of it, can you explain how it works?
Sure. So basically, they install a little device in your car,
Yeah.
and it tracks your driving habits.
Like Big Brother for your car?
Kind of, but in a good way, I swear.
Okay, so what kind of things does it track?
Well, it tracks things like your speed, how hard you brake,
Okay,
even the times of day you're driving.
so it's like a fitness tracker, but for your car.
Exactly. And the best part is if you're a safe driver,
You get rewarded.
you get rewarded with lower insurance premiums.
So it actually pays to be a good driver.
Literally.
Yeah.
And for young drivers who are often considered higher risk by insurance companies,
Yeah.
this can be a game changer.
Yeah, because it gives them a chance to prove that they're actually responsible drivers.
Exactly. And potentially get lower rates.
I love that idea. I wish they had that when I was a new driver.
Me too. It would have definitely made me more mindful behind the wheel.
Okay, so black box insurance, that's one way to potentially save some money. What else did the article suggest?
Well, another strategy is to consider increasing your excess.
Okay, the excess, can you remind us what that is again?
Sure. So your excess is the amount of money you agree to pay up front if you make a claim.
Right, so it's like your contribution before the insurance kicks in.
Exactly. And by choosing a higher excess, you can often lower your overall premium.
So you're basically taking on more risk yourself.
Right. You're saying, hey, I'm willing to pay more upfront if something happens.
Yeah, and in exchange, the insurance company gives you a lower premium.
Exactly. So it's a bit of a gamble.
It is, you're betting on yourself to be a safe driver.
Right. And if you are a safe driver and you don't have any accidents, then it could be a great way to save money.
But if you do have an accident,
You're going to have to shell out more cash up front.
yeah. So it's really important to think about your own driving skills and your financial situation before making that decision.
Definitely. And of course, there's always the classic advice.
Oh, yeah, what's that?
Shop around.
Shop around never gets old.
It's tried and true for a reason.
But why is it so important?
Because insurance premiums can vary so much from one company to the next.
Right. So what one company might quote you.
Another company might give you a completely different price.
So it really pays to do your research.
It does. And thankfully, we have these amazing things called comparison websites.
Comparison websites, yes, they are lifesavers.
They make it so easy to compare different quotes and see all your options side by side.
I remember spending hours on comparison websites when I was first getting car insurance.
That's like a treasure hunt.
It is. You're trying to find the best deal.
Exactly. And it's worth it to put in that time because you can end up saving a lot of money.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here, driving frequency, budget coverage, and all those great money-saving tips. But now the big question is, how do we bring all this information together to help our listeners make that final decision?
Okay, so we've talked about a lot, right? We've covered temporary insurance. We've covered annual insurance.
We've gone through all the pros and cons, all the things to consider.
all those little money-saving tips.
Yeah, we've really explored it all, haven't we?
We have. So now I think the big question is like, okay, I've heard all this information now.
Now what do I do?
Right? Like, how do I actually make this decision? Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that there's no one right answer.
Right, there's no magic formula.
Nope. It all depends on your individual circumstances,
Right.
your needs, your budget.
Like everyone's situation is a little bit different.
Exactly. So you got to take all this information and kind of apply it to your own life.
So let's try to break it down. Like if you're a casual driver,
Yeah. Someone who only drives occasionally.
maybe just a couple times a month.
Maybe you're borrowing a car. Or
Yeah, you're just using it for like errands or weekend trips.
Then temporary insurance might be the way to go.
Yeah, it's like renting a car. You know, you get it for a specific period of time and then you're done.
Exactly. You don't have that long-term commitment.
But on the other hand, if you're a frequent driver
Yeah, if you're using your car almost every day.
for work or school or just, you know, life in general, then annual insurance often makes more sense.
Yeah, it's usually the more cost-effective option in the long run.
And you get that peace of mind knowing that you're always covered.
Exactly. And don't forget, you're building up that no claims bonus.
Right, which can save you money in the future.
Exactly. So it's
Yeah.
really about weighing those pros and cons and seeing what fits best for your lifestyle.
And remember, even within those categories, temporary and annual, there's so many different options.
Oh, yeah. Tons of different insurers out there.
Different coverage levels, different price points.
So it's super important to shop around.
Comparison websites, those are your best friends.
They make it so easy to compare different quotes.
And find the best deal.
Exactly. Don't just settle for the first quote you see.
Take some time, do your research.
It'll be worth it in the end.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today,
Yeah.
I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay. I like it.
Think about how this choice, you know, temporary versus annual,
Yeah.
how it might affect your overall sense of freedom as a young driver,
That's interesting.
right? Like, does having that year-round coverage with annual insurance,
Yeah.
does that make you feel more secure?
Like you can just go anywhere, do anything.
Exactly. Or does the flexibility of temporary insurance,
Yeah. Being able to just grab a car and go whenever you want.
does that feel more liberating?
I mean, it's almost like two different philosophies, right?
It is. It's like, you know,
Two different approaches to life.
exactly. So
Yeah.
there's no right or wrong answer.
Nope. It's all about what feels right for you.
So as you embark on this car insurance journey,
Ooh, nice.
remember, it's not just about choosing a policy.
It's about choosing a lifestyle.
Ooh. I like that. Choose wisely, drive safely, and enjoy the ride.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
That brings us to the end of our deep dive today.
Hope you enjoyed it.
We hope this has helped you understand the ins and outs of car insurance
All the little details.
and that you feel more confident making this decision.
Yes, informed decisions.
That's what it's all about.
All right, everyone, happy driving.
Take care.
Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more videos.